weakest and most cowardly Speaker of the House we have ever seen is afraid of saying.
George Santos' campaign last year was a campaign of deceit, lies, and fabrication. He's disgraced the House of Representatives, and we do not consider him one of our congresspeople. Today, on behalf of the Nassau County Republican Committee, I am calling for his immediate resignation.
That is Republican Joseph Cairo, who is the county chairman of the Republican Party in George Santos's congressional district on Long Island in New York. Here was George Santos's reply today to his local party chairman calling for his resignation.
I will not.
I will not.
Guys, you got to give us space.
A little space here.
This way.
The New York Republicans are calling you a disgrace.
Pardon me.
You will not resign.
Pardon me.
Excuse me, guys. The Congress is trying to get in the elevator. Excuse us.
Top committees.
If I were in the group chasing him down the hall, I'd have one question. Where are you going? One of the mysteries of George Santos's first days in the House of Representatives is, where is he going? Where is he going when reporters are chasing him down the hall? He has nowhere to go. He has nothing to do. He's not a member of any committees yet. He has no work to do in the House of Representatives. He doesn't have to go anywhere. And Kevin McCarthy says that George Santos is not going to be put on any important committees.
Expect George Santos to be on any of these committees, on these 8 committees. You think George Santos?
No. The weakest speaker we have ever seen thinks, as you just saw, that the idea of putting George Santos on an important committee is laughable. That's what he did right there after he said no. That's how ridiculous George Santos is in the eyes of Kevin McCarthy at this point. George Santos lied about everything on his resume to get elected to Congress. He didn't inflate or exaggerate anything on his resume. He created a completely fictional resume. He didn't go to college, and he claims to be a college graduate who then went to NYU Business School, tells you what his grade point average was in college. He didn't go to college. He claimed on his resume that he worked at Citigroup and Goldman Sachs. All of that is a lie. He never worked there. None of the voters who got tricked into voting for George Santos knew any of that when George Santos was lying to them about everything that he told those voters was part of his preparation to be a capable member of the House of Representatives. But Kevin McCarthy believes that those voters should be stuck with the liar who fooled them.
The Nassau County GOP called on him to resign today. Does that affect your thinking at all? What do you intend to do about Congressman Santos?
I try to stick by the Constitution. The voters elected him to serve. If there is a concern and he has to go through the ethics, we'll let him move through that. But right now, the voters have a voice in the decisions, not where people pick and choose based upon what somebody's press has. So he will continue to serve.
Are you going to take any action against him at this point? Are any of these allegations acceptable to you?
What are the charges against him?
Well, I mean,
is there a charge against him? You know, in America today, you're innocent until proven guilty. So just because somebody doesn't like the press you have, it's not me that can oversay what the voters say. The voters are the power. The voters made the decision, and he has the right to serve. If there is something that rises to the occasion that he did something wrong, then we'll deal with that at that time.
He needs his vote. That's what this is about for Kevin McCarthy. He needs his vote. As long as George Santos is a member of the House of Representatives, he will vote exactly the way Kevin McCarthy tells him to every single time. Unlike the group of rebellious Republicans who tried to defeat Kevin McCarthy's bid for the speakership, those Republicans are ready to vote against Kevin McCarthy on the floor of the House whenever they feel like it. And there's at least 21 of them. And so, to preserve his speakership and to pass bills on the floor of the House that will never be passed by the United States Senate and never become law, Kevin McCarthy needs George Santos. He needs George Santos for the performance art that Kevin McCarthy is going to perform for 2 years on the House floor, if he remains Speaker that long. Kevin McCarthy needs George Santos to join in the stunt of voting for reckless Republican legislation in the House of Representatives that will never become law. Nothing the Republican House of Representatives votes on will become law because Democrats in the Senate won't even bring it to a vote. Chuck Schumer won't even let it come to the Senate floor. So Joe Biden will never have to veto any of the childish junk that Kevin McCarthy will put in legislative language and pass through the House of Representatives with George Santos's vote. George Santos voted, as Kevin McCarthy ordered him to defund the police. The first vote that Kevin McCarthy brought to the House of Representatives was to defund the police. Republicans voted to defund the tax police, the Internal Revenue Service, so that the Internal Revenue Service will be incapable of enforcing tax law against very rich taxpayers with very complicated tax returns. It was purely a stunt, like all Republican legislation that you will see pass the House of Representatives this year. It will not become law. It has no chance of becoming law. Kevin McCarthy is the circus master of a version of the House of Representatives that has no interest in and no capacity to govern. And now George Santos has become the perfect representative to the country of the Republican House of Representatives.
Well, to my recollection, it said he went to Baruch College, said he went to NYU. He later, or perhaps at the interview, I didn't attend it, that he sought a master's degree, said that he worked in finance. I don't recall, was it Citigroup, I think. Said he was very successful, told me personally that he had made a lot of money at that age and was successful in life. We got into it, started getting personal about the fact that he came from a poor background, but that he was able to be very successful. Told me, I remember specifically, I'm into sports a little bit, that he was a star on the Baruch volleyball team and that they won the league championship. And what can I tell you?
Republicans are laughing at George Santos, but the Republican Party is now the Santos Party. That is George Santos's local county chairman of the Republican Party laughing at him. You just saw Kevin McCarthy laugh at George Santos, laugh at the idea of giving George Santos a real committee assignment. Every Republican member of the House now has to answer for George Santos and the Santos Party. And the Republican members of the House who are being most closely pressed on George Santos say he should resign. 4 Republicans in the House of Representatives from the state of New York, 4 members say their colleague from the state of New York, Republican members of the House, say George Santos must resign. Republican Congressman Anthony D'Esposito said in a statement, quote, "I will not associate with him in Congress, and I will encourage others in the House of Representatives to join me in rejecting him." If Kevin McCarthy were a strong Speaker of the House, he would protect those Republican members of the House of Representatives from New York from having to continue to distance themselves from George Santos, from having to continue to answer questions about George Santos every day from the local media in New York. That is what a strong Speaker of the House knows how to do for his members. Just ask Anthony Weiner. When Anthony Weiner exposed himself and the House of Representatives to the distraction of having to deal with sexual pictures of Anthony Weiner that he sent to young women who he met on Twitter, Nancy Pelosi didn't ask for a House Ethics Committee investigation. Nancy Pelosi didn't say she couldn't overrule Anthony Weiner's voters. Nancy Pelosi didn't have to be chased down the hall and asked whether Anthony Weiner should continue to serve on House committees. Nancy Pelosi sat Anthony Weiner down and told him to get out. And the next day, Anthony Weiner resigned from the House of Representatives, and no Democratic member of the House of Representatives had to answer another question about Anthony Weiner. That is what a strong Speaker is supposed to know how to do. A strong Speaker doesn't say, well, his voters voted for him. I can't override them. Anthony Weiner's voters didn't know about that conduct when they voted for Anthony Weiner. And Anthony Weiner won his House seat by a much larger majority than George Santos won his House seat. Speaker of the House of Representatives Nancy Pelosi knew immediately that it was her job to deal with the Anthony Weiner problem. Nancy Pelosi didn't care that she was going to have one less vote in the House of Representatives the next day. She did what she had to do for the House of Representatives, and Kevin McCarthy is proving once again that he is not smart enough and he is not strong enough to do what he should do for the House of Representatives.
He's disgraced the House of Representatives, and we do not consider him one of our congresspeople. Today, on behalf of the Nassau County Republican Committee, I am calling for his immediate resignation.